Welcome everyone. Today we are going to respond to AMA I did on Slash Basketball. In case you didn't know, I am Ziggy Marsh on Slash Basketball. I did just make an AMA from I think 2 weeks ago from the time of this video, and I just thought it would be good to essentially speak this in video form rather than me writing on comments. So the first video, or let me not say first video, was wrong me. But the first question is, this guy has a few questions. So the first one was, how many of your teammates, for lack of a better word, are dumb at anything besides ball? Athletes do get pushed through school, whether they should or not. Everyone thinks they'll be going to the league or NBA, but a fraction do, which is true. So you obviously have a lot of kids that put too much focus on sports, not studying and not making the most out of college. I suppose that ties into financial literacy, as kids that don't pay attention to regular class will ignore financial classes as well. So the answer to this question is essentially most of my teammates were, I won't call them dumb, but I'll call them ignorant in other things outside of basketball. They didn't really have the skills to be able to go through life with all the dangers when it comes to, for instance, finances and investments and money management and relationships, women. They lack those skills because they've dedicated most of their lives into their sport. So that's essentially why most athletes in college, and of course our society, pushes athletes to do this. They push athletes to not be completely informed, and they try to coddle them because of what they provide. So it really does do a detriment to them. The other question we have is, do you think AAU is harming American athletes' development? Yes, very much so. American AAU is a massive danger when it comes to athletic development, especially at the younger years, because you should be focused on fundamentals, more practices, more working on essentially the fundamentals of the game. But it's overshadowed by exposure and going to camps, going to tournaments, highlight reels, it's the fast life. I call it the fast life in AAU. You're not just playing lots of games, and that turns into coaches trying to put the best players in the game, because if they win they get sponsors. It's a never-ending snowball of just bad habits and bad what I'm looking for. It's all bad. Let's just say it that way. Can you rank the best leagues other players find a job when you play overseas? Like I said, most of the time when you're thinking about leagues, it's Europe. It definitely is one of the best. The Germany's, the Spain's, France's, they have a solid basketball program. Turkey's really good as well. Lebanon is actually pretty nice. When it comes to skill level. Now, when you are trying to compare skill level and money, it doesn't always go together. Normally it does, but sometimes it doesn't intersect like that. Like in Dubai, for example, the league isn't great, but you can make a lot of money in that league. So that's a situation when it comes to best leagues other players are talking about. It's, well, what are you comparing this to? You're comparing it to you trying to get to a better place, or you want to be in a place where you want to play against great competition, or do you want to earn a lot more money? Because there are other places like Asia is probably really good when it comes to the money. So that's kind of what you want to do. So how much weight training do you do in season versus out of season? You want to make sure you're doing a decent amount of weight training where you can maintain what you built on the off season. That's really your goal. Especially if you are a starter or you're playing a lot of minutes, your goal is to maintain what you already have. You don't want to lose it, which is what's normal in most people when they're playing. Is if they're playing 40 minutes, 48 minutes, if you're a pro or whatever, if you aren't keeping up, you will lose muscle mass, you will lose weight, and that's stuff you really don't want to do. You want to make sure that you are at least maintaining it. If you're not playing, you should be able to put on muscle because you'll be eating enough. So how much expenses were subsidized by your teams overseas? Did they hook you up with a driver? Yes, actually, when I was in Saudi Arabia, that's like what they did. They paid for my home, they paid for my apartment. I actually had a driver that would drive us to practice and games because they wouldn't let us have our own cars, which, I mean, at least in that particular club. So yeah, basically everything was subsidized. The only thing we paid for is food. And the coolest place I went to, probably Lebanon. So next question we're going to have is, I talked about Lebanon quite a bit. So this next question someone asked was, can you tell us more about what you liked about Lebanon? What was the corruption you had to deal with? Well, in Lebanon, it's the geopolitical nature of that country. Essentially, the consequence of that is there's a lot of people who are trying to seek power, who are in the upper echelons or the elite in that country. So basketball is a part of that. So my team is one of the better teams I was playing for. So when I got to these galas that I had to go when it comes to for our playoffs, I was around a lot of people who are essentially in control of that country. So I had to be very mindful about how I talk, how I carried myself. And I basically was just a basketball player and I didn't push it anymore, but I could definitely feel the tension in the room, at least in my opinion. I might bring up a photo of it in here about when I was there, but yeah, it was a really rough time. So I just, once again, completely aware about what's going on. The next question is, who's the best player you played with and against? I have a few guys I played with: LeBron, Rondo, Big Baby Davis. I played with Seth Curry when I was in the G League. I didn't play against Kobe, but I did ask him quite a bit of questions. So, you know, I've been around a lot of the greats, and I was able to learn quite a bit, especially from Dirk, because I definitely was able to ask him some questions. So, what else are we gonna do? All right. The other question they had is, can I expand on my opinions on LeBron? Because I am very self-critical of LeBron. And essentially, it's the things you're seeing LeBron do now, he has exemplified those traits since he was in his early 20s. And I just don't have time for it. As a man, if you cannot assume responsibility when things go well as when things aren't going well, then you don't have any respect from me. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who support him so much that they'll want to see the flaws in him and his character. And he plays and he's done a great job by building a brand around him, but ultimately it's just going to tarnish his legacy when he cannot accept when things go wrong as well when things go right. So I'm just going to leave it at that. There are definitely more things I can do. Let's see. Do you think betting has fully infiltrated the league, and how dirty are some of the referees? I noticed a lot of games where certain crews are refereeing the games tend to be called completely different. Yes. There's already been referees I've gotten caught from this. And in my previous video, I talked about the NIL. Gambling is everywhere in our entire country. Poly market allows you to gamble in anything. Literally, they just had, the last time I checked Poly Market, they had a gamble that the last address in the White House, I forgot who this woman was, that if it was to go longer than an hour and 8 minutes, you would win a bet. And if it's lower than 1 hour and 8 minutes, you lose a bet. Anything is able to be gambled on now. So gambling, when it comes to sports, is even higher than that. So gambling is here to stay. Our institutions support it. Our elite class promote it when it comes to DraftKings for the NFL. And then you have Kevin Hart talking about it in the NBA. It's all bad. So ultimately, gambling is going to come up even more than it's already been. And like I said in my previous videos, it's going to destroy what at least in college, because you're supposed to avoid that in college, but now there's no way to avoid it. So what else we got? With sports gambling such a topic, should players be allowed to bet on themselves or their teams for good stats? Does it happen on the inside and under the table, wagers at any level, including college? Is there any way to have accountability without destroying players' careers? No, unfortunately, there's not. The moment you accept money, this is why the NCAA screwed up so much, and why I talk about it in this channel, is the fact that the moment the NCAA allowed players to get paid the way they're getting paid now, instead of being proactive and creating a salary structure for the Division I, Division II scholarship athletes, well, unfortunately, now you're creating a rift between the players. You have one player on the team that's making 8.5, almost $10 million NIL deal, and you have the other guys on the team who aren't making anything. And then you have guys in the middle, the role players, who still aren't getting anything, but are playing just the same much as he is. And unfortunately, those guys in particular, the ones that are starters who aren't getting paid, they're going to be the ones where these guys, when they come up to them, hey, I'll give you $10,000. I just need you to miss 4 shots. And you think they're not going to accept it? They are. And that's the whole point of why sports gambling is so dangerous, especially for collegiate athletics, because collegiate athletics should be shielded from money, which is the whole point of the NCAA in the first place. But because of their greed, they now have let the genie out of the bottle. People can fight me all they want. The under the table wagers is going to happen even more, especially for the people who don't have NIL deals, because they're going to want cash. And it might not even be cash. It could be a car. It could be a vacation. It could be it's just accepting any type of value that might not even be money. They could be getting it in completely different ways that you won't even know about. But the fact of the matter is, even if it's true or not, how can you tell if it's true or not? As a viewer, as someone who's watching these games, how can you tell if the guy gambled or not? You can't, which is the biggest problem of all. It destroys your authenticity. People don't believe it anymore. People don't even believe certain YouTube channels. I've had people say that my stuff is AI. So they can't even, they don't believe that this video is real. So that's the unfortunate part about it, is that now the authenticity will be challenged at all times. All right, let's get to the next one. Yeah, we get to go zips. Yeah, moving on. That was pretty fortunate. Yeah. Move on. Who do you think is being slept on as someone who can carry a team to a championship that the average basketball fan doesn't recognize or realize? Also, how many super talented dudes that could have been great did you see all fall off because of effort, attitude? And as I wrote on this on the thread, it's really hard to actually say that, because the NBA does not incentivize people to do what Kobe did or what Derrick Rose did. They don't incentivize that anymore. They incentivize what LeBron does, what Kevin Durant did, and what I can't give Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade did his own thing, but they're not trying to carry a team to championship. They'll just leave and work together to get a championship. So the culture of the NBA doesn't support basketball championship teams, someone carrying their team to a championship. It just doesn't. I mean, the closest one that we still have right now is Stephen Curry. He's still on the same team. He wants to carry it to a championship. But though I don't know if they're going to be able to make it anymore at this point. I mean, they could, but ultimately they don't breed that no more. They just don't. The culture doesn't allow it. So unfortunately, there's a lot of, when it comes to basketball fans seeing it, even if you do see it, it's not like they're willing to invest the time and effort and loyalty to a team for them to even become built around, for them to even build around a player like that. And you saw what happened with Dallas with Luka. Luka, I guarantee, was willing to stay in Dallas and do anything he can, and they traded him. So it's not even the players, it's the front office as well. They don't care either. They don't care about the money. So that's why I wanted to say on that one. What's the next question we got? Everyone, and I will say, you can go on this thread and see what I wrote on, but I just wanted to say this in video form because I think it is an easier medium for some people to get this on. They say, who was my favorite teammate? As always, I will say, as a pro, Mike Kabanga. He was definitely my favorite teammate. And shout out to him if he ever watches this, but he was my favorite teammate when I was a pro. So here's another one. How much different was the physicality of the game overseas? We always hear about how they let players get away with more, but is it almost like playing a different sport? Not necessarily. What you are noticing when it comes to overseas is that they don't, in the NBA, they promote high offense. That's what Adam Silver wants. He wants a lot of points scored. He wants a lot of dunking, and they want the lane clear so people can dunk. They're promoting offensive play, and they penalize defense. They penalize defense quite a bit. And overseas, they don't penalize defense that much. They actually prefer it. But on top of that, you coming in as an outsider, you're going to be a target for the referees. It's almost always like that. They're going to be the local players, and the players that have been playing for 10 years, they're going to be able to get away with beating you up a bit. Because the refs are just a hometown advantage, essentially. And it's your job to play past that. It's your job to persevere and still dominate. Once again, which is why you're getting paid most likely more than those players if you're in the right position. Like, that's your job, is to overcome that adversity. When you're in the middle of the game, how much do the pros feel pain and fatigue? For us, people have average athleticism. We usually stop exercising when we're feel tired or hurt, but obviously that's not an option for the pros. When in the heat of the moment, do you actually ever feel injuries or fatigue? We will feel injuries, depending on how bad they are. If they're not serious, we can play. Adrenaline will keep going, and we'll deal with it after the fact. But when it comes to being tired, you can be tired if it's a high energy game, as in you're running up and down and it doesn't stop that much. And there are games where that's happened. People can get tired, but ultimately it's your job to be in shape. It's your job to be able to run and be effective at a certain pace. Like for me, I'm not sprinting up and down the court all the time. I'm at 80% pace, and my 80% is other people's 100%. That's how it needs to do. You need to be able to stay consistent and preserve your energy and breathing, because that's another thing. A lot of people don't forget that they need to breathe well, because if you don't know how to breathe, you will get tired faster. If you can perfect these things, it's your job to essentially get yourself in a position where you can run as often as you want and do things that you like to do, or do things that you are required to do when it's time playing basketball. And what country did I play at the craziest fans? Definitely Lebanon. Lebanon had the craziest fans. I have an entire video, which I will link in the description if people are interested, of my story of my times in Lebanon. But Lebanon was definitely the craziest. What do you think is the main feature of international player development that the United States should adopt? They should definitely adopt the nurturing and real fundamental development. They care too much about the glamour, the praise, the games, the highlight reels, and they don't care about the fundamentals, which is why Europe is dominating NBA now. Because Americans just don't have the fundamentals. We do have talent. I'll give us that. We always have the talent. But now Europe has talent and fundamentals. And it is shown over right now in the NBA and college. It's starting to happen in college as well. So that's the main feature. We need to learn how to sow seeds and nurture them for a long period of time so it can grow to strong, fruits of your labor. We don't do that. We just assume, oh, we're just going to throw them out there, have them play a lot of games, and then they'll just develop on their own. It's not working too well. We're not doing well in the world stage anymore because our players just don't have great fundamentals. And then the people that we look up to don't have great fundamentals as well. The LeBrons, the James Hardens, the travels, the no defense. That is what these kids are watching, and they're emulating it when they're out playing. And that's really what we don't want. We don't want that. All right, here's another one. How good were you and your teammates at school? Did college ball set you up for success? Did geometry help you in basketball? And most importantly, are professional basketball players nerds or jocks? It is a weird question, but I mean, I was good. I really can't say much. Like, I won championships. I was ranked top in the nation, etc. I was really good. So did it set him up? Did he set you up for success? It did in its own way. You have to define success, though, unfortunately. And our professional basketball, they're essentially jocks. There's some nerds, but not many. Basketball players in general are very, in my opinion, single-minded. It has changed, though, from what it looks like, but in my time, it just wasn't. In the league, how was player safety? Was equipment up to standard? The referees failed to call things and cited injury. Yes, referees always fail to call. They are human beings. But NBA is in most cases the gold standard when it comes to player safety. They focus so much on it now, actually to their detriment, because it's allowing the players to become lazy, which is why injuries are actually higher, because they're not pushing them as hard as they should be. And did the coaches help? Some coaches help. Unfortunately, there are some coaches that just don't. Let me read it. Did your coaches help you? Were they nice, reassuring, but harsh, or were they choosing favorites? And what made you stop playing? The coaches help every once in a while, but they only help as much as it will help their jobs. They were only nice when they had to be, but not all of them, especially my coach in France. He was miserable. And he was one of the ones who actually chose favorites quite a bit. And just to answer this, I stopped playing just because it was time to move on. Economically, things were going bad. So I wanted to get ahead of it. Did not want to be, and I could have still played for another 4 or 5 years. I could probably still play now if I really worked at it. But like, even if let's say I played now and I gave it another 3-4 years, I played till I was 39. Then after, I still will have to deal with the transition, which is why I decided to just get ahead of it now and then try something new, which is why I'm trying to box now. So I did the basketball, now I want to box. So I want to continue doing things, and I don't want to look back. I'm proud of my career, but now it's time to move on. And essentially, that's kind of how I approach it. How many professional basketball players do you think are closeted and are just not exposing their sexual orientation to the media? Now I'm sure there's quite a few, but as I wrote on the Reddit post, you don't want to mix business and pleasure. So in a locker room, that's normally not out there. They're gonna keep it into themselves, because we're not here to be in a relationship or make friends. We're here to do a job, and our team camaraderie is an important part of making sure we can do that job effectively. I'm not gonna skip that one. What skills should an average Joe like me train and develop to be a great player and pick up in the work leagues? Like I said, the best thing, and I have had a lot of people ask me this when it comes to average people, the best thing you can do is get yourself in phenomenal shape, cardio-wise. If you can last longer than your opponent, you will win, especially in rec leagues, because these people will get tired, including myself when I play in a rec league. When you are in shape and you can run faster and last longer and grab rebounds more when everyone else is too tired to do it, you will elevate your game so much. So many people neglect just how important staying in shape is. If you can stay in shape, that's literally like 50% of the battle. Then everything else is being in the right position, having a talent, but you can solve 50% of your problems by just this is what we call in coaches hustle. If you can out hustle your opponent, you'll win. For the most part, you will definitely win. You'll get the offensive rebounds, you'll get the garbage points, you'll get saves, you'll be able to get back on defense fast, stuff like that. It will do so much for you. If you had to say what's the most important ingredient for success as an NBA professional basketball player, is it God-given talent, work ethic, or something else? like I said, the most important thing is actually work ethic. But when it comes to the NBA, talent is a close second. But work ethic is the number one, because without you putting in the time, all the talent in the world is not going to get you to the point where you can be, I gonna say proficient, but essentially advanced, like a specialist in a skill in basketball. So this is why is God-given talent isn't always the case. There are some guys like Steve Kerr. He didn't have a lot of God-given talent, but he was a guy that posted up on the side the three-point line, and his only job was to catch and shoot. If you were a specialist in threes, or be like a Ben Wallace, who was a specialist in defense, or Dennis Rodman, who's also a specialist in defensive rebounding. Or you can be a floor leader, someone who just is a floor general who just facilitates. Like, there are a lot of ways but you have to be best to the best. Whatever. You have to be the best of the best for this to work out. So that's the only way. If you really want to become the NBA or be a professional basketball player, it's you either need to have the talent with the work ethic, because you have to work hard. You have to be able to get to the gym 2-4 hours a day. You got to put in the reps to become a specialist in something. And that requires work ethic, doesn't matter how you look at it. And then yes, you do need some talent. You need to be athletic enough to do the job. So once you get to that level, there are going to be some guys who are just more athletic, but there are ways you can work around it. And you can see it with guys like Jokovic, Joker. You can see it from guys like Luka, guys who aren't athletic, but at the game and know how to use angles and know how to cut people off, use their body to dominate and score. All right, we're going to use one more question. This is going far. What's the next one? What separates NBA players from other pros, like those in the G League and overseas? Is it raw talent? Is it hard work? Have you seen players who worked like Kobe but just didn't make the league because they just weren't talented enough? Have you seen players who did put in any work but made it to the NBA purely on their God-given talents? The biggest difference when it comes to guys who are NBA and G League are normally, I'll say two things. One, it is because the weird thing is there are some players, they're essentially G League players. There's only 30 teams in the NBA. 15 players a team, 12 suit up. That's 450 players. That say, and off the top, 100 of those are going to be, I'll say 50 of those are superstars. Another 100 maybe all-stars. Everyone else are role players, bench players, specialists. There ain't many openings. So and the most part, what separates a lot of NBA players is who they know and networking. Of course, you need to have the buzz, the talent, and that all relates. But I do know guys overseas who are clearly better than some NBA players, but they just didn't get the opportunity, or some off-the-court issue was a problem. There'd be a lot of reasons for it. But in general, NBA does have a lot of, they prefer God-given talent and work ethic and all of it. They basically want all, they have the choice to have all of it because there is so many players they can choose from. They have all the money, so they can pick and choose what they want. But that's basically it. I just wanted to talk about this. Just wanted to put this in video form. Hopefully you got a little bit out of it. Anytime I do an AMA on /basketball, I'm probably going to put out a video on this. But this is like 2 weeks old, so I wanted to write this up. But hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.